Imagine growing up in a world where the rules were already written, not by you, not even by your parents, but by generations of fear, struggle, and survival. What if the reason many people never escape poverty isn't because they're lazy or incapable, but because they've been trained not to escape? In this video, we're uncovering one of the most hidden and dangerous forms of control: the psychological and social systems that condition people to remain poor. Poverty isn't just about lacking money. It's a mindset, a belief system planted in childhood and carried through life. By the end of this, you'll see how deeply these invisible programs shape people's futures and how they can be broken. Before we dive in, support this channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing this video with someone who needs to hear it. And in the comments, tell us, what were you taught about money growing up? Your story could be the breakthrough someone else needs. Let's begin. Layer 1. Childhood conditioning. From the very beginning, children born into poverty are taught one lesson: lack is normal. It's reinforced in small but powerful ways. When the lights are cut off because bills weren't paid, when meals are limited to whatever is cheapest, when parents say we can't afford that, the child absorbs something far deeper than financial struggle. They start to believe scarcity is permanent, that it's simply the way life is, and even worse, that it's all they deserve. Dr. Bruce Lipton, a renowned biologist, explains that during the first 7 years of life, children's brains operate mostly in a theta state, highly suggestible, almost hypnotic. In this state, every message, every feeling, every experience is programmed straight into the subconscious. So if a child's world is filled with fear, stress, and limitation, they don't just learn poverty, they become poverty. This blueprint shapes how they'll view money, risk, opportunity, and self-worth for the rest of their lives. They'll fear having money because it feels temporary. They'll sabotage opportunities because success feels undeserved. And the most dangerous part, they won't even realize they're doing it. Beliefs that trap generations. Ask yourself, what beliefs did you absorb as a child about money? Were you told rich people are greedy, that money is the root of all evil, that success is luck, not effort? These beliefs become invisible laws, internal rules most people never question because they don't even know they exist. In families trapped in poverty, money conversations are filled with fear and frustration. There's no room for planning, investing, or creating. The focus is survival, making it through the month, holding on to the job, avoiding disaster. This is exactly what psychologist Abraham Maslow described in his hierarchy of needs. When people are stuck worrying about basic survival, they can't focus on growth, potential, or self-actualization. And so, generation after generation, the cycle continues. The role of education. Look at schools in low-income communities. Underfunded, overcrowded, lacking resources. Students aren't taught how money works, how to create value, or how to build wealth. Instead, they're trained to follow rules, memorize facts, and aim for jobs that just barely cover the bills. This isn't a coincidence. As Noam Chomsky once said, the education system is a system of imposed ignorance, and in many cases, that ignorance is financial. Poor kids aren't taught how the system works. They're taught how to stay in it, not how to create freedom, but how to become good employees, never empowered creators. And when someone dares to break free by starting a business, investing, or dreaming bigger, they often face resistance, not only from society but from their own families and communities. Don't get your hopes up. That's not for people like us. The silent program. This is the silent program most people don't even know is running their lives. But here's the truth. If poverty is learned, then it can also be unlearned. People like us don't do things like that. Just get a real job and be grateful. These aren't just words, they're anchors. Chains disguised as advice. There. Spoken by people who mean well, but who are themselves trapped in the same programming of poverty. And so the cycle continues. Not because people are incapable, but because they've been conditioned. Poverty, in this sense, is not a personal failure, it's a curriculum. The good news? Any curriculum can be rewritten. The moment you see the program, you can begin to change it. The moment you recognize the false lessons, you can start teaching yourself new ones. You can question the beliefs you inherited. You can shift from survival to creation, from fear to power. In the next part of this journey, we'll dig even deeper into how media, culture, and economic systems reinforce the poverty mindset, and why those in power benefit from keeping you small. But before we go further, I want to hear from you. What's one belief about money or success that you're ready to challenge?
Share it in the comments.
Your insight could be the spark that helps someone else break free. Because if the first lessons of poverty are taught inside the home, the next ones are taught outside through media, culture, and society itself. Think about the stories we're constantly fed through movies, music, TV shows, and ads. Who gets to be rich? Who is portrayed as powerful and respected? And more importantly, what traits are tied to that wealth? In mainstream narratives, wealth is usually unattainable or corrupt. The rich are villains, the poor are noble heroes, and money is shown as something that ruins character. These subtle messages condition people to believe wealth and goodness can't coexist. That to be moral, you must reject financial success, or at least never pursue it too seriously. This false choice, goodness versus wealth, creates inner conflict. Many people sabotage their own growth, afraid that success will disconnect them from their roots, their identity, or even the people they love. Social psychologist Leon Festinger called this cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort when beliefs clash with actions. If someone was raised to believe money is evil, they'll struggle to keep it because deep down it feels wrong. And the systems around us know this. They thrive on it. Modern consumer culture doesn't keep people poor by starving them, keeps them poor by teaching them to spend. We're flooded daily with images of luxury, status, and happiness tied to consumption. The goal isn't to make you wealthy, it's to keep you chasing the illusion of wealth. You're taught success is the latest phone, the designer brand, the picture-perfect lifestyle while your bank account stays empty. As Robert Kiyosaki explained in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, poor and middle-class families are trained to buy things that drain their pockets, while the rich are trained to buy things that fill them. But financial literacy like this is almost never taught. In schools, especially not in low-income communities. Instead, society pushes buy now, pay later, rent instead of own, and work for money, but never let money work for you. These aren't conveniences, they're traps. And here's the harsh reality. Entire industries profit from keeping people trapped. Payday loan companies, credit card corporations, predatory lenders, even parts of the education and medical system, they thrive when people are uninformed, overwhelmed, and desperate. Poverty isn't just a condition, it's a business model. And when someone dares to break free, they're often shamed, called greedy, accused of forgetting where they came from. This manipulation runs deep in communities where struggle has been normalized. Generational trauma turns into generational loyalty. Anyone who chooses differently is seen not as a role model, but as a threat. But here's the truth. You are not disloyal for wanting more. You are not selfish for seeking freedom. You are not arrogant for breaking the cycle. What if your growth is exactly what your family line has been waiting for? What if your rise isn't betrayal but the breakthrough? This brings us to the workplace, another institution that conditions people to stay poor. From an early age, most of us are trained to become employees. The education system molds students to show up on time, follow instructions, complete tasks, and depend on external approval. Creativity, critical thinking, and entrepreneurial spirit aren't encouraged not because they lack value, but because they threaten systems built on obedience. The traditional job model rewards time, not value. You're taught to trade your hours for a fixed paycheck. While those who own the systems benefit from the leverage of your labor, the message is simple. Work hard, stay loyal, and maybe retire, with just enough to survive. But here's the truth. Real wealth isn't built through wages. It's built through ownership of assets, ideas, equity, and systems. Think about it. If hard work alone created wealth, wouldn't janitors, construction workers, cleaners, nurses, and farmers be the richest people in the world? These are some of the hardest working individuals in society, yet they remain the most financially vulnerable. Why? Because they're taught to work hard for money, but not how to make money work for them. This disconnect isn't an accident, it's by design. Upton Sinclair once wrote, "It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends upon his not understanding it." The same is true for entire systems. Entire industries rely on your ignorance and your belief that struggle is noble, ambition is selfish, and wealth is out of reach. But the world is changing. People are waking up, questioning the rules and rethinking their worth. They're exploring new paths, entrepreneurship, investing, digital freedom, and mindset reprogramming. They're rejecting the old script and writing their own. That's exactly what we're here to help you do. In the next chapter, we'll uncover the hidden teachings that keep the poor mentally enslaved. How language, identity, and even religion are used to keep people small. These are truths rarely spoken, but once you hear them, you can't unhear them. Before we continue, pause and reflect. How much of your financial reality was inherited? Which beliefs are truly yours, and which were handed to you without permission? Share in the comments what's the biggest lie you were taught about money. And if this message stirs something in you, a spark, a memory, a fire, hold on to it, because the most powerful truth is coming next. By now, you can see poverty isn't just about lacking money. It's about the presence of beliefs, systems, and social structures designed to keep people limited. But the most dangerous layer is far more personal: identity. When someone grows up surrounded by poverty, watching parents and neighbors struggle, it's easy to draw a subconscious conclusion. This is who I am. Poverty becomes part of their self-image. And the most dangerous prison is the one built inside the mind. Dr. Joe Dispenza, a neuroscientist and researcher of human potential, explains that our thoughts, feelings, and actions create our state of being. When those thoughts are rooted in fear, scarcity, and survival, the brain literally wires itself into that identity. A person doesn't just live in poverty, they begin to live as poverty. Even when new opportunities arrive, they often reject them, sometimes without realizing it, because success feels unfamiliar, even unsafe. This is the comfort zone. And for someone conditioned by scarcity, even struggle can feel strangely comfortable. Now, let's talk about language, one of the hidden tools that shapes identity. Think about the phrases people repeat. Money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are selfish. I'm just not good with money. These aren't just words. Over time, they become mantras. And mantras become truths. Words have power. They reflect beliefs and reinforce them. When someone constantly speaks limitation, they create a life that mirrors it. That's why one of the first steps to breaking free from financial struggle is to change the language you use around money. And beneath all of this lies another layer: spirituality and morality. In many cultures and religions, poverty isn't just normalized, it's romanticized. People are taught that to be good, you must suffer. That to be humble, you must be poor. That money is a test, a trap, or even a sin. But this is a distortion of spiritual truth. Because real spirituality isn't about glorifying struggle, it's about expanding freedom. Humility does not mean embracing poverty. It means refusing to be owned by wealth. And yet millions grow up believing that wanting more is wrong, that prosperity is selfish, and that ambition is dangerous. This conditioning creates a deep moral conflict, a sense of guilt and shame. Whenever someone tries to improve their financial life, but pause and ask yourself, if you had more money, what would you do with it? Would you support your family, strengthen your community, create opportunities for others, expand your potential? Money doesn't change who you are, amplifies what's already inside you. If you're generous, conscious, and compassionate, then your prosperity becomes a tool for healing and change. As the Dalai Lama once said, it is not enough to be compassionate. You must act. And action often requires resources. So why are teachings that glorify lack and guilt so widespread? Because a disempowered population is easier to control. People who believe they must stay small are less likely to question authority, challenge injustice, or pursue independence. They become predictable, contained, manageable. This is not conspiracide's history. From feudalism to colonialism to modern capitalism, control of economics has always been a strategy for control of people. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people unknowingly cooperate with this system every day. They follow the script. They censor their own potential, pass down the same limitations to their children, not out of malice, but out of belief. Belief that this is simply the way life is. But belief can change. Let me ask you, what if the poverty you inherited is not your destiny, but your training ground? What if the struggles you've endured were preparing you to lead, not to suffer? History is filled with people who broke free, not just financially, but mentally. Oprah Winfrey rose from abuse and poverty to become a billionaire media icon. Andrew Carnegie began with nothing, built an empire, and then gave away most of his wealth to education and libraries. Nelson Mandela, though never wealthy in money, overcame generations of oppression to ignite global change. Have in common? Not privilege? Not luck? Shift in consciousness? They questioned the narrative. They refused to be defined by limitation. They chose radical responsibility for their growth even against impossible odds. You can do the same. But to begin, you must confront the voice in your head that whispers, "Who do you think you are?" That is not your voice. It is the echo of generations who didn't know another way. Your job is not to silence it, but to replace it with a new voice that says, "I was born for more. I have the right to rise. My abundance serves the world." Because the truth is this: your wealth in every form is not just for you. It's for the people you inspire, the children you uplift, the systems you will transform. In the final part of this journey, we'll reveal the most powerful truth of all, the one secret the system never wants you to understand: how to reclaim your mind, rewrite your identity, and build a legacy rooted in freedom. But first, reflect. What is one belief, one phrase, one story about money that you're ready to retire? And what new truth are you ready to claim instead? Share it boldly in the comments, because transformation begins the moment we speak new truths into existence. Now we arrive at the ultimate insight. The truth buried beneath layers of tradition, culture, education, and religion. The most effective way to keep someone poor is to convince them that freedom was never meant for them. In the first place, this is the invisible cage, the silent permission we give to limitation. The belief that our fate is fixed, that the cycle cannot be broken, that abundance is for other people. But here's the breakthrough. Every system, every structure, every lie loses its power the moment you become aware of it. The key to breaking free is simple but profound. Reclaim your mind. As psychologist William James said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitudes of mind." That discovery is still revolutionary today, because it means the true battlefield is not out there. It's in here. Not outside, it's within. You were taught to stay poor through repetition, through shame, through the normalization of struggle. So how do you undo it? You replace it. You rewire it. You deliberately feed your mind new ideas, new stories, new possibilities, until they become your truth. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself through new connections. Simply put, what you think about repeatedly becomes your reality, and what you question, you can change. The first step is awareness. Question every belief you inherited about money, worth, success, and identity. Ask yourself, who taught me that money is bad? Where did I learn that I'm not capable? Why do I feel guilt when I think about wealth? The second step is language. Change the words you use with yourself. Eliminate phrases of limitation. I can't. It's too late. It's not for people like me. Replace them with truths. I'm learning. I'm capable. I create value. You are not lying to yourself. You are retraining yourself. The third step is aligned action. It doesn't have to be massive. Start small. Read one book on money. Open one savings account. Offer one skill for payment. Each step is proof to your subconscious that a new story is possible. Because the real goal isn't money, it's freedom. Freedom is choice. Freedom is time. Freedom is agency over your own life, the moment you realize you have the power to design that life no matter your past. You become dangerous to the system that kept you small. This is where legacy begins. When you rise, you don't rise alone. You break a chain. You model a new reality. You shift what normal looks like for your family, your children, your community. Generations that would have repeated the same story begin writing a new one because you chose to question it. Think about it. How many people do you know who inherited struggle and passed it down without ever stopping to ask why? Oh. Imagine being the one who says, "It ends with me." Not with bitterness, not with blame, but with clarity, wisdom, and love. That is true leadership. Not domination, but liberation. Not rising for ego, but rising for evolution. And here's the deeper truth. No system wants you to realize you are not broken. You are not lazy. You are not stupid. You are not less than. You are not unworthy. We're simply taught to believe those things because the world profits when you don't know your power, but now you do. And with that knowledge comes responsibility. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. You can no longer blame the system if you keep playing its game. You can no longer sit silent while your potential rusts in the dark. You must choose. Will you keep living by someone else's scriptor? Will you write your own? Will you remain a product of your environment or become the architect of your future? Will you pass down the story of struggle? Become the beginning of a new legacy. This video wasn't made to give you all the answers. It was made to awaken the part of you that already knows, to remind you that your life, your financial reality, your personal power, your future is a canvas, not a cage. Yes, breaking free is hard. Yes, it takes time. Yes, it will trigger fear, guilt, and resistance. But that is the price of transformation. And the reward is immeasurable. Because once you reclaim your mind, your thoughts, your beliefs, your identity, you stop surviving and start creating. So let me leave you with one final question. What will you teach the next generation about what is possible? Your answer to that question is your legacy. If this message has stirred something in you, it has challenged you, moved you, or opened your eyes, don't let it fade. Share it, reflect on it, act on it. Subscribe if you haven't, and in the comments tell us, what is one action you will take starting today to break the cycle? Because the world doesn't need more obedience, it needs more awakened minds. Yours is one of them.